Hi, everybody. I'm Laura DiCarlo of Career Directors International. If you're starting, currently thinking about starting, or actively building a resume writing or career coaching business, I'm so glad you've joined me today. In this show, we share the tools, strategy, and mindset tips that lead to your ultimate success without the stress. My guest today is Marian Bernard of the Regency Group, and you'll be getting to know her soon. Hi, Marian. How are you today?
Good, and you, Laura?
I'm great and really excited about what we're going to be talking about today. All right, listen, if you're joining us, we're currently streaming on CDI's Facebook page, YouTube channel, and LinkedIn page. But platforms don't do a really great job of letting me know who you are. So when you comment in response to the questions that I'll be asking and engaging you with as we go, please do me a favor and include your name with your comment. That makes it simple. We know who we're commenting, or we see commenting. I've got the chat open now, so I would invite you to say hello. Let me know who you are and where you're tuning in from. All right, so again, let me be a little formal here. I'll put our topic up today. We're talking about startup and growth secrets with our guest, Marian Bernard. Before I formally introduce Marian and ask her the questions, I just want to ask you to do three things. First is, again, let me know who you are. You might give me a hashtag newbie if you're completely new to my channel and me. Give me a hashtag SUPS, S-U-P-S, for career superheroes, being part of CDI's community. Again, give me your name so I know who you are. Second, if you have questions, please put them in the chat. Questions for me, questions for Marian. We're going to be monitoring that as we go. And third, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe, depending on what platform you're on. Let's see, nothing in the chat so far. So let me go ahead and tell you a little bit about Marian. While I'm doing that, if you are a guest here today, hey, give us a shout out to Marian for being here and being willing to tell her story and share her tips. We'll be looking for that in the chat. Okay, so what distinguishes Marian from her colleagues is that she operates Canada's only while you wait resume writing service. Clients across all 10 Canadian provinces, the Northwest Territories, the Yukon, oh, I'm going to butcher that, Nunavut?
Oh, none of it.
Oh, Nunavut, okay. Got a little block here on my screen. 48 American states, Mexico, the UK, the UAE, the EU, and more revel in her historically producing standout job search documents in under 3 hours. Very impressive. She was Ontario's first certified professional resume writer, was only one of six in Canada to earn the Certified Employment Interview Professional credential, the first in Canada to attain the Certified Job Search Strategist credential, and the second to become a certified online profile expert. Her published work appears in the following books: Expert Resumes for Managers and Executives, Best Canadian Resumes, Gallery of Best Resumes and Cover Letters Without a Four-Year Degree, 3rd edition, Cover Letters for Dummies, Edition 3, and Job Search Letters for Dummies. In her spare time, she enjoys cooking. She loves all forms of dance. Think waltz, foxtrot, cha-cha, Roomba?
Rumba.
Okay. You think I'd never seen dance before? Jive and salsa. She attends regular Zumba classes, which has helped her to lose 52.2 pounds in 53 weeks, and she possesses encyclopedic knowledge of top 40 music from the mid-50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s. She is an Aurora resident since 1981 and lives with Oreo, a precious 22-month-old retriever slash black lab slash blue heel mix who is a rescue dog. Oh, Marian, I love your unique approach. You're actually the third professional I've ever met who did while you wait. Not to like start talking myself, but I still, as I was reading over your bio, which it might seem like I never read it before, but I did, when I was reading over it, prepping for this session a couple days ago, that whole while you wait thing reminded me of when I was first starting out Sears Resume Service as a contractor running the Melbourne, Florida office. And every month we would see a report of what each office, who was in the top performance. Not that we received anything. It was more like just knowing where you stood. And there was always this one in South Florida that had just like no one came close to the revenue this one office produced. And I was like always chasing it. I'm a very competitive person. I love opportunities to challenge myself. But anyway, I finally got to find out one day that he had high traffic and did all while you wait services.
Mm.
And that gave me some peace of mind because it didn't fit my model. But the few people I've met who've done that, who choose to do that, really love it. So I can't wait to learn more. Really quickly here, Barb Penny. Barb, we actually amazingly can see your name, which LinkedIn doesn't always do that for us. But
Hi, Barb.
she says, happy to be here. Welcome. We're so glad you're joining us. So anybody else, please say hello. Welcome Marian along with me. So Marian, we know how long you've lived where you've lived. When did you first start your business?
I'm going to be a little geeky here. I can tell you the day. It was
wow.
Tuesday, June 25th, 1985. And I had what I wanted to do. I kind of had the bug in terms of how I wanted to start my business. Now, I originally wanted to offer secretarial services to independent businesses and lone wolves because my original academic background is as an executive secretary. Now, at that time, I wanted to call my business Typing Plus, a play on the Glass Plus cleaning product. When I went to register my business name back then, the ministry is now known as the Ontario Ministry of Public and Business Service Directory. I was told that the name had already been snapped up.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, I need to come up with a name right here, right now, right on the spot. My way of thinking at the time was I live in a neighborhood known as Regency Acres.
Okay.
And right then and there, I prayed that the name Regency Secretarial was still available. Thank goodness it was. And in 2000, I shifted the name to the Regency Group because, according to an extremely respected resume writing industry icon, the Regency Group allowed me to have more flexibility regarding the services I offer. I don't do too much in the way of secretarial anymore because a lot of my clients have since retired. Sadly, some of them have passed away. So the Regency Group sounds a little bit more conglomerate, even though it's me and me alone.
Yeah, I know. I love that. I think whenever you're planning a name, it's important to think about what you might want to become and not necessarily pigeonholing yourself. But today we also have to worry about a little bit about SEO sometimes, unless you're very established like you are. Ironically, my first business was Laura-Ads. Before I even knew resume writing could be a lucrative profession, it was short for Laura's Advertising. And I did all types of desktop publishing and resumes and whatnot. And then when I started my first formal official career services business in resume writing, even though resumes was what everybody came to me first, I went with a competitive edge career service.
I get it.
I wanted to cover the bases, but if you're old school like Marian and I are, then you probably remember the yellow pages where it was alphabetical. Oh gosh, we're dating ourselves.
Hey, nothing wrong.
But you know what? Even today, so many things are done alphabetically that I don't think it hurts in listings to have a name that's in those first letters, if at all possible for me. But that's awesome. I love hearing how you made the shift when you realized your business was focusing in on more of the resume and career, and you wanted that more formal feel. The Regency Group sounds like, oh yes, sounds very professional. I like it.
Sounds very royal. Him.
Yeah. So listen, if you are following along today, oh hi Joan, welcome. Glad you're with us. So if you're following along today as a guest, let us know if you have a business name in mind and you want to share it, bounce around some ideas, or what your business name is called. Love to hear it, or what year you started. All right. Okay. So Marian, tell us a little bit about your business. We know now that it started, with a secretarial focus and that you've shifted. What's your What's your specialty? What do you do?
Well, I offer 6 different profit centers, and the first 4 that I'm going to mention to you are the services that I'm requested to do most often. So, resume writing, LinkedIn profile writing, interview coaching, and cover letter creation, still a thing.
Hmm.
I also offer tailored recruiter submission campaigns where what I do is somebody will ask, I will ask somebody, what industry, what geographic areas are you looking to target? And then I will do the research to locate recruiters that match up to what my clients are looking for. Forward the resume and the cover letter to the recruiters, and then what I do is I supply my job seeking client with all of that contact information, and I advise them on following up, and I'm giving them scripts in terms of how to follow up. I also offer custom hidden job market campaign creation. The reason I do that is that a lot of times I will ask people, how are you conducting your job search? And they will say, well, I'm looking at LinkedIn, I'm looking at Indeed, I'm looking at ZipRecruiter, that sort of thing. And I say, all fine and well, but do you realize that you're only penetrating maybe 20% of the jobs that are out there? And they're amazed. And I will say, I know of the other 80% that you can tap into.
Love it, love it. And since, we've talked about the whole you're Canada's only while you wait in under 3 hours, does that apply solely to the resume or how does that work?
The resume and the cover letter, what I say to my clients, we can get everything done in under 3 hours. Then, after I've captured the information, I will format everything. I'm taking notes as we're talking. I will get a first draft over to them in less than 24 hours. Once we've reached final status, we then begin on the LinkedIn profile. And I typically need to speak with my client anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour, and I can write the LinkedIn profile. What I'm doing lately is I'm sharing my screen with them on Zoom so they actually see everything come to light. And
Yeah.
I do the same thing with the interview coaching where we will script answers to standard and quote unquote sticky questions as well.
That's neat. That's neat. I like that. Okay. And then for the career services, that's something that you do at a later time then, right?
Correct. And I do that more behind the scenes. And what I aim to do is I aim to drip feed my results to my clients. My aim is to locate 6 sources that they can access immediately. And then, once we have all of that done, I send them the final master document and we're good to go.
Yeah. Dripping for everyone who might be watching now or as a replay. Dripping things to clients is a good way to keep them out of overwhelm. And it's also a good way to give them something to do if you're doing more of a traditional, like waiting for resume writing. Like when I used to do packages, and you don't have to, let's just be clear, like Marian says she's doing research-based functions. Other people who are just resume writers and don't get into the career services at all, they still use, as CDI members, they might use the done for you tip sheets as part of their package that they sell so that job seekers are completely educated on things they need to do, from customizing their resume to networking to LinkedIn. So it's not a matter of, oh my gosh, I have to initially wear all these hats. That's not an absolute, right? Gosh, I was going to make a point and I got excited and went in 10 directions and don't remember what it was.
You have to have senior moments, Laura.
I know. I'm only going to be 55 next year, everybody. So it's too soon. But I think that what I'm just trying to stress is don't feel overwhelmed when you hear some of my guests who, do the more technical pieces. Remember that this is your business. You get to do what you want. And there are supplemental services, there's partners, there's referrals that can pay you referral fees. There's white labeled tools like in CDI. And I know I was going to add something there, but we'll just move on. All right. Anything else about your business that we should know?
I think we've covered it for the time being.
Okay. All right. And I know that obviously your business started as secretarial. Why don't you tell us a little bit about, because everybody's always interested to know, especially when they're considering this as a career field, is like what professions translate well to getting into career services. So you said it was secretarial. Tell us a little bit more.
Well, like you said, I originally graduated from my local community college where I earned a diploma with honors from their executive secretarial program. Now, barely 2 weeks after finishing this program, I started working at CIL Inc. At the time, they were Canada's largest chemical company, and they're probably best known on the consumer side for paints, lawn fertilizer, plant food, that sort of thing. My very first job at CIL was I was the department secretary to our in-house advertising and public relations department. 3 years later, I earned a promotion to word processing operator. 3 years after that, I was promoted once again to word processing consultant. Now, the difference between word processing operator and word processing consultant, in my operator role, I solved problems for about 70 people in my department. In my consultant role, I was solving word processing related problems for all 1,500 people at our location. Now, in my 10th year at CIL, the department I was working in, they decided to merge with a subsidiary, and layoffs, unfortunately, were imminent. I initially thought I was immune to this layoff because I was repeatedly told that I had the best performance ranking out of all 70 people in my department, and that 35 people would have been laid off. Now, you can imagine I was blindsided when 2 months before my 30th birthday, by the way, I was told that I was one of the 35 employees caught in the fallout. On the drive home, I'm in tears and I'm thinking, I'll never work again. And as you can appreciate, I can still remember firsthand what it's like to lose your job to a reorganization. So I can relate to people who are displaced.
Yes.
Now, in terms of how, what made me decide to start my business, we need to go back in time when I was 16 years old and I was still in high school. I wanted to earn some extra money, but my parents were very concerned that my having a part-time job could affect my grades. A family member who at that time worked at Toronto's York University recommended that I place an ad in their school newspaper, and I would type student essays for some extra coin. The first ad hit the paper just before March break, and to my delight, I was overwhelmed with work. In fact, during that week, I was 16 years old at the time. I was pulling in better than a full-time salary, which blew my mind.
Wow.
Now, eventually, I landed part-time jobs at Baskin-Robbins, McDonald's, and Simpsons. Simpsons was a big box retailer with dozens of stores across Canada. Sadly, they shut their doors in 1991. I got all of those jobs while I was still in my teens. Nevertheless, I was always drawn towards typing essays and making extra pocket change. Now, fast forward to my mid-20s when I earned my final promotion at CIL. That promotion came with an office, one that, interestingly enough, I didn't want, because back then CIL had a rule that only managers and executives received offices, and I was always non-management. I felt very awkward that I had my own office. Literally what they do, they cleaned out a closet for me. A pretty big closet, I might add. In addition, one of the managers had a cubicle for a workstation, not an office. And although I let it be known that I wanted to swap out work areas with this manager, my request unfortunately fell on deaf ears. As a result, this officeless manager made my life a living hell and recruited other colleagues to dabble in some nasty office politics. To this day, I do not do office politics very well.
No.
And although my morale was tanking at the time, I believed that I still had an obligation to CIL to do my level best while on the job. Around that time, I started reading articles in women's magazines touting the freedom of running a home-based business, and I was intrigued. So 6 months before my last day at CIL, I registered my business. It remained for the most part a dormant side hustle. Now, when I began running my business full time, I had to do so on the quote unquote down low. The reason was I was receiving severance pay for about 9 weeks. And CIL told me that if I started working prior to that 9-week cutoff, the severance pay would grind to a halt. Now, I initially earned revenue by placing tear-off ads on the bulletin boards of a handful of local post-secondary institutions. I have about 12 or so universities and colleges within easy commuting distance from me. And I would type essays for students. And I remember at the same time, I made a vow that if I couldn't make a go of my business in 5 years' time, I'd go back into the real world of work. Pretty well from day one, I've always joked that I work in the surreal world. That 5-year cutoff was back in 1991, and I admit to being an oldies geek. I'm thinking of Elton John's song back in 1983, "I'm Still Standing," so just letting you know.
Exactly.
Now, mere weeks after launching my business, one of my student clients asked me to quote unquote type up his resume. Now, even in the mid 1980s, this is pre-internet, so I'm on the verge of fossilhood. I instinctively knew that the then popular duties and responsibilities approach just would not cut
it. Yeah.
That's why, and this is before CDI existed. This is before, anything else of that nature existed. That's why I checked out every book I could from the local library to make sure that I could soak up as much knowledge as possible to ultimately deliver a superior resume to my student client. And like I said, it still blows my mind that, I launched my business a decade and change before I had internet connection.
Wow. Yeah, I think there's something several things you said resonated with me, but the point about the books and soaking up knowledge, it's a totally different world today.
Yeah.
When we were initially starting out, because I remember books were my friend too, but today, self-publishing is a blessing and a curse for entrepreneurs because the knowledge that you think you're gaining can actually work against you. There's more bad advice for job seekers and other career professionals than there is good advice out there. So
I am constantly telling job seekers that, anything you read, say if a government entity gives you advice on writing your resume, I will say they mean well. Their knowledge is 45 years behind the times. And one of the reasons that they may not keep current is that the government is going to have to raise our taxes so that these individuals are properly educated. And the last thing people want is to be hit with more taxes.
Right. There are so many reasons why people are behind. I also think you get the issue of a job seeker and even a professional resume writer, because like one of the survey questions we did on the critical industry analysis survey last year was to ask how long does it take your clients on average to land new positions, and the number who didn't even know how long it took. It's like, well, if you don't know how long it takes your clients to achieve their success, first of all, that is a huge selling point to be collecting that data, because for a job seeker to know that it took them 6 months, 9 months, a year on their own, and it takes your clients on average under 90 days is super impressive. But there's just so many people out there who don't realize what is possible with a really strategic, effective today, like you said, non-duties and responsibilities. Bullet point: responsible for. The word I never want to see on a resume is did. DID, like a verb, that tiny. Anyway, if you've got any pet peeves, we would love to see them in the chat. Throw them out there for us.
I say to clients, when they forward their resumes to me, more often than not, I'm working from scratch. So I joke around, I'm going to morph into nosy mode. But when they do send me their resume and I look at it and I'll comment back and I'll say, the last thing I'm going to describe you as is a results driven team player, because that is beyond nauseous cliche. It's just like it's just like hearing, I like Taylor Swift, but it's like hearing the same old song over and over and over again. And from the hiring decision maker's perspective, they've heard that phraseology more times than you care to count.
Yeah, responsible for is just the eyes glaze over and you lose their attention. So if you stumble across this video and you are writing resumes with responsible for, it's definitely time to come up to date. When I used to do job fairs with my practice, I would collect resumes. They would very quickly, because it was like, get a resume review from an award-winning, multi-certified resume writer, and they would be lining up. I joke that I used a barker because when you're at a job fair with a service that's for sale, people avoid you like the plague. So I would have somebody with me for the first quarter of the day who would be like, out in the path of people and would say, hey, would you like some free feedback? And on your resume, we have an award-winning, published and multi-certified resume writer here, blah, blah, blah. So they would be lining up. And then once you get a line going, you don't need anything because people are like, there must be something good there.
I've evaluated, I'm actually a 6-time resume evaluator at Toronto's National Job Fair and Training Expo. And I used to joke around. I'd look at my watch. I think, 15 minutes has gone by. Next thing you know, 3 hours has gone by because it's just constant.
You're slammed. Exactly. So you probably can relate to the fact that everybody who walks up almost has a resume that looks like the exact same, often Microsoft Word template.
More often than not, yes.
I used to like, the best way I would do my feedback, because I would do group feedback, is I would hold up like 2 resumes from the stack with my hands covering the contact information. And I would say, yes, these are candidates for 2 separate jobs, but does anything stand out to you on either of these? Does anything look different? And they'd be like, no. And I would be like, look at your resume, look at the size of the stack behind me. Why do you think any employer who is here today, be them recruiter or HR person, is going to be excited to pull your resume out of the stack? What's going to happen is they're going to go back to the office tomorrow, feed them, into the system. They're now a day behind on their work because they spent a day at the job fair. If you didn't have some way that your brand showed up, and I'm not talking about neon colors, and that's when I show them my samples in my book, and they would be like, I've never seen anything like that, because most job seekers have never seen a resume that looks like a truly professional resume that works. They just don't have access to it. And they would just be scrambling to get on my consult schedule. One more thing I want to just say before we move on. She was talking about the old school, papers on bulletin boards with the pull-off tabs with phone numbers. The thing is, while that's, you're going to go, well, that's just so, oh my gosh, who would do that today? And obviously we're not talking about today, but on the flip side, when I put the replay on the website later today and send out the email, if you're on the email list, you'll get an email with a link directly to it. So make sure you've done that. But when I put it out, I'm going to link to a video on local business building, because so often I see new businesses or struggling businesses, like if you haven't changed your marketing in the last 3 years, even if you've been doing this for 20 years, you might find yourself suddenly struggling in this post-COVID new world. But looking towards your local market can be a fabulous way to build your brand and grow. Remember that everywhere you look, somebody is going to eventually need your services or know someone who does. This is a service for everyone. You have an unlimited market, so why beat your head against the wall trying to scream against every voice on LinkedIn and and of course, local market, if you're like, well, I'm in a niche industry, that's my specialty as a career professional, and that's not in my market. Okay, go to the professional association for your specialty. Don't try to scream over all the other voices. Don't ignore your local market or your niche market, I guess is what I'm saying.
If I can interject here now, I live, I think I mentioned, I live 30 minutes north of Toronto. I live in a town called Aurora, as in Borealis. And when I first launched my business, back then I worked only in person, face to face. And if people were contacting me from Toronto, which is a 30-minute drive away, and they would ask me, where are you located? I would say I'm in Aurora. Their response would be, oh, you're so far. I lost the opportunity to work with them. So I figured out a way where they wouldn't have to physically visit me. Back then I used to say that I'd only work over the phone. We just eliminate the prospect of distance.
Mhm.
And especially, I'm pointing out all the benefits of working over
Right.
the phone or virtual. In my neck of the woods, I mean, we're not out of the woods yet as far as winter is concerned, although you'd never know it by the weather out there right now. But realistically speaking, a lot of people, and I'm like this too, I'm princess of the winter driving wimps. I will not drive
Yeah.
when there is freezing rain or anything like that sort of thing. So I say, peace of mind, head over to your favorite easy chair. I'll even recommend a hot chocolate blend you want to buy into, that sort of thing. And my business activity went up 35% in
Oh, yeah.
2 months because I was able to overcome the perceived objection of distance.
Yes. Yes.
And, I mean, the town I live in is about 65,000 people. Toronto is in the millions. It's Canada's largest city. It's the third largest city in all of North America. But, even though I live in a town of 65,000, I have an international clientele, which blows my mind.
Yeah. No, that is such good advice, everyone. There's such good golden nuggets happening here today. I'm going to also put with the replay a video. It's called SWOT Analyze Yourself for Success or something like that, where I talk about knowing what could be a perceived weakness or a question you've been at. Just like if you taught interviewing, you would teach people how to prepare for, what's your greatest weakness. Like I love to start my presentations talking about interviewing, going, who's been asked that? Raise your hands, and a whole bunch of hands will go up, and then I'll be like, all right, who feels like they were prepared for that? And you'll see some hands and some dropped heads, and I'll be like, okay, who got asked it a second time? And more hands will go up, and I go, did you prepare for it? And there's some sheepish laughs and groans, and I'm like, we're told we can't prepare for an interview. However, you've just proven the fact that we can. I believe and have found that there's a list of core common questions. You might get asked a different version of the question, but if you prepare for what I call the Latin root word interview questions, the parents of all interview questions, you'll be ready for anything. And then I got their attention and I can talk. But anyway, you get asked these things when you have a business, like, do you have a guarantee? Well, if you don't have a guarantee, you got to have a spin for that. Marian got, oh, I don't want to go that far. When I, developed health problems and needed to work from the bathtub back when everybody did face-to-face, I came up with a spin for it. And it sounds a lot like your spin, like go get your easy chair and your hot chocolate. The more wonderful you can make a solution that helps you save the day for them and you're making the sale, the better chance they're going to be like, oh yeah, that's a great idea, instead of feeling like, oh,
one of the other reasons I did that, you probably noticed my mascot walking around periodically. I live by myself, and although I live in a very safe neighborhood, I don't want a total stranger coming into my home anymore. So,
right.
That's another reason why I say over the phone or Zoom. And no, I thought that Oreo wanted to put in an appearance, and
we can see him.
Yeah, you're going to see me. He's just dropped one of his toys in my lap. So,
okay, no worries.
Okay, hang on, Owie. Here you go.
Visitors, my regular audience knows that my cat often starts screaming about now, so no worries. All right. So if you are a viewer here with us today, let us know. Let us know your story. You don't have to tell me a whole story, but why did you start, or why do you want to start a business? Where are you at in your journey? Okay, Marian. So at what point in your business did you find CDI?
2011. I remember it was around this time in 2011, and back then a lady by the name of Judy, and I'm afraid I don't remember her last name, she told me that I just had to join because of the immense value that she had received from CDI, and she just waxed your praises big time. And I think around that time you were offering a little bit of a break on the pricing. Now, let me mention too, I'm in Canada, and I mean, I have no problem paying for things in US funds. And I think the exchange rate these days is something like 26%, give or take.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to point out to the people watching this that if you think that you can't afford to invest in yourself, I'm in effect paying double digit more because I say, yes, this has the opportunity to elevate my stance and elevate my business. And I'm more than happy to do that.
Oh, that's lovely. That's lovely. Yeah, the one thing I can say is that an annual membership in CDI, our current rate when we open it right now, registration is closed, but we do have a wait list. And hint, hint, we are going to be opening it for 48 hours to just the wait list only at the beginning of April. So make sure you're on that list if you're hoping to benefit from the CDI resources. But, we're really kind of proud of the fact that we include all of our live events. That's like anywhere from 12 to 20 events within the CDI membership. And CDI membership is less than $300 a year. And unlike pretty much everyone else, including many of you, we have not made a 34% increase for post-COVID inflation. We have not raised our prices at all. We have kept them the same. But the bottom line is, in my mind, is you said you're paying double in Canadian dollars, and we do have members all around the world who pay a lot. But I always want to say, if you think you can't afford CDI at $267 a year, then you absolutely need to join CDI, because that should literally be only a fraction of one client sale per year.
I agree.
And if it's not, you need us to help you change that trajectory. All right, Barb said, thank you, Laura, Marian, and Oreo. I couldn't stay any longer, but enjoyed the stories. All right, well, if you're already gone, Barb, thank you for joining us. I hope you'll tune into the replay.
Yeah, Barb is one of my colleagues from Edmonton, so I'm thrilled that she joined. So.
Oh, nice. Is she in the industry?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Awesome. All right. So we know that you find CDI valuable because obviously you've been a member for over a decade now. Mm-hmm. What are some of the things that have been most valuable to you?
Well, you're asking me to narrow it down?
You can overview whatever works.
Okay. Well, seriously, the incredible support and the unbelievable amount of resources that CDI offers, namely the best practice tip sheets, the on-demand audio and video tutorials that I can access when I want to, and the done-for-you client resources. So ultimately, I don't have to reinvent the wheel when it comes to dispensing advice to clients. Now, let me mention that I've incorporated I think it's your 94% success rate strategy. Mm-hmm. And I had one instance, a client contacted me earlier this week, and he said, I want a resume and a LinkedIn profile. And, finding out more about him, I was originally going to quote X. And when I started listening to his story, I was able to add on some extra services, and I quoted 50% higher as a result. So kudos to you, Laura.
Yeah, that strategy, I love it. I built it for myself and my not bizarre, because introversion is a very common trait, but I did it because I was terrified every time my own phone would ring that somebody was going to be on the other end demanding to know how much it cost. And I needed a way to help to overcome my own frustration that job seekers felt it was something they could do themselves, and therefore it should have a low price tag. Mm-hmm. And it just evolved from there to something that I literally got an email from a member today who was like, thank you, because I just charged $600. And he was like, okay, sounds great. She's like, mm-hmm. What you don't know is that I've never quoted more than $250 for that same thing before. And you've helped me gain the confidence to know it's possible. So it's not about if you have a good strategy like the one I share with CDI members, it's not even about selling, it's about educating.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, tell us a little bit about what having your own. I mean, I know just from hearing what you said earlier about obviously you're not now having looming over your shoulder someone who has the power to have you do such an amazing job and go, you know what, we don't need you anymore, or another manager who can make your life miserable because he's jealous of the office. But what else has having your own business made possible for you?
Oh, an immense sense of pride, respect, and accomplishment. I'm going to have to grab my Kleenex in just a second because this is something that's very emotional for me. I can hold my head high and know that I've played a pivotal role in helping my job-seeking clients boost their confidence during times of obvious stress for them. And I don't have to be exposed to office politics. Now, I'd also like to think that I continue to channel my father's entrepreneurial spirit to this day. Here's where the tears are going to start
Oh
coming.
no. Okay.
Now, my father, well, both my parents actually were Holocaust survivors, but my father was so grateful to be given a second chance at life. He immigrated to Canada when he was in his early 20s. He was dispatched to Northern Ontario to clear the bush. He learned English with no formalized English as a second language training whatsoever. And he launched his own entrepreneurial venture when I was about 5 years old. Now,
Wow.
he retired at age 65. He sold his business, and his business still continues to flourish today. My father instilled in me, and my younger brother for that matter, the philosophy that if we wanted something badly enough, the satisfaction of earning it is indescribable. Uh, for example, I wanted to save up for my own car when I was 17 years old. 2 years later, by working at Baskin Robbins, McDonald's, typing essays, that sort of thing, I drove up in a brand new car I paid cash for.
Nice.
And I was only 19 at the time. Even though my father passed away in 2008, I thoroughly understand how he must have felt in successfully overcoming some seemingly insurmountable obstacles. Let me also mention that I've had the opportunity to meet and learn from some of the best in the resume writing and careers community. And for years, I've held the philosophy that I don't view my fellow resume writers and career counterparts as competitors. Rather, we are colleagues that we can learn from. And as a result, I've made some long lasting friendships in this treasured community. And I've been to more than my fair share of resume writing conferences. And what goes on at a resume writing conference after the presentations stay in the resume writing community.
Oh boy. Yeah, I still remember the last conference, the Come as Your Future Self party that we hosted, and all the fun costumes that people wore, showing up as who they were going to be 5 years from now.
Was that the Entrepreneurial Success Secrets in 2015?
Yes,
I
yes.
was there.
I know, because you and I think it's in the, we have a teaser video on
Yeah.
my speaker and media page, and I think there's a part in there where you and I are dancing on the stage together, just
Yeah.
having fun.
I'll
Yeah,
do it again.
yeah, I know that was such good times. I loved it so much. Um, oh, this is so wonderful. All right, so listen, if you're still here joining us or you've just come on, be sure to say hello in the chat and maybe let us know what having your own business has made possible or what you hope it will make possible. I personally like that no one tells me what to do. I'm not very good with that.
My friends will tell you that about me as well.
Well, there's something to be said for, like you said, you worked so hard, you gave your all, you helped that company so much, and what did you get for it?
Yeah.
You got
Yeah.
blindsided and then told if you get a job in 9 weeks, well, people have heard my story about how, I envisioned starting my career rock bottom money wise, that if I made this incredible showing that there'd be a reward for me, and being told, oh, you've built an award-winning placement program that's the top out of 11 campuses in 2 countries, and you're getting the biggest raise ever. I was so excited for 27 cents an hour. that wasn't even at the time inflation, and it's like,
Mhm.
wow, there's got to be something better. And being self-employed isn't for everyone. It has its challenges, but you can determine your own future that way.
Definitely.
All right. So, what's one thing you wish you had known when you first started your business, or if you were starting out today, what's one thing you would have done differently?
Well, back in the day, I would have set friendly yet firm expectations with clients. As I alluded to earlier, I run a home based business, and the vast majority of my colleagues do. And I've encountered instances where some people deem it okay to show up at my place unannounced and think that I'll drop everything to copy type a resume for them from their notes. And when I diplomatically explain that I work by appointment only, most people apologize, and we subsequently book a 30-minute Zoom discovery chat where I will share a resume that I wrote on my screen, elaborate on the services I offer, and use your quote unquote Goldilocks method of quoting.
Yes, yes. Goldilocks, just for everybody who's like, what is she talking about? Is that whole, Goldilocks and the three bears, and there you got the porridge version, you got the bed version. One was too hot, one was too cold, one was just right.
Yep.
This was really cool. I have some tip videos on that topic. But yeah, when I saw the Goldilocks in the tips that you shared with me, I was like, is it possible that she has a Goldilocks, or is that my Goldilocks? I've been waiting to find out.
Well, it's yours.
Okay, okay, that's awesome. Yeah, I can't agree enough about boundaries. And everybody watch the social media posts that we're putting out, because I'm sharing details from Marian on some of these tips and my thoughts on them too. And boundaries are so critical because you're probably coming from the point, if you're a professional, that you know everybody should know how a professional business operates, but a lot of people haven't dealt with an entrepreneur, or somebody who works from home, and they only know what they know, and they will push things not knowing any better. The best advice I ever got was, um, be clear and be repetitive in how things work with your clients,
Yep.
because you're hurting both of you if they don't know. So
Mm.
I love that. That's great advice, because I hear all the time people who are just working themselves more often than not just even somebody knocking on their door at inappropriate times, but just feeling like they have to say yes to everything, because that whole the client's always right. And we don't want bad reviews, but we also need to have life balance,
Mhm.
um, that starts with setting clear boundaries for everyone. All right. If you have one that you want to share, please drop it in the chat, everybody. But all right, Marian, if someone is considering a career in this field, or they're struggling in their business right now, you have any advice you would share with them?
Definitely. First of all, reach out to the resume writing and careers community and see if you can subcontract for a firm that might be overloaded with client requests. Now, I will point out that the vast majority of firms will require that you have at least one industry designation.
Mm-hmm.
Next, follow some of our industry kingpins for sage advice that you can incorporate into your own business. And because the vast majority of us have social media presence, that's a no-brainer to do.
Right, right.
Also, keep learning and remain current on what it takes to be successful in launching and maintaining a business. These days, you have to factor in the following things. How can I build and continue to grow an email list in order to attract a loyal client following? How can I weave in SEO, search engine optimization tactics, into my website, blog posts, and social media submissions in order to attract job seeking clients? When and next one, when and with what frequency will I post thought provoking advice on social media so that my target clients look forward to my ramblings? Also, how can I carve out the time to learn more about what can impact the job seeking landscape? These days, not a day will go by when you hear a discussion on AI, artificial intelligence. And Laura, I am so grateful to you that you arranged for CDI members to benefit from training earlier this year on how to use AI to grow your career industry business with social media.
Yeah, that was a great guest, Andrea Thomas. She was a great guest. That was one of our free member webinars earlier this year. That's now available on demand if somebody didn't access that yet and you're a member. Yeah, the whole AI thing. There are lots of tips in the replay. I have a link to all the tips I've ever shared. And a lot of these prior shows, I always had a prompt just for CDI members that is with the replay as well, and those show up there too. But all right, one of the things you said, I was like, don't forget that, because I wanted to say something and I don't remember which one it was. Oh well, those were all great tips, but I got caught up in the last one and I'm like, whoop, the rest has just gone out of my little brain.
Like I said, you're way too young to have senior moments, Laura. That's my domain.
We're just going to call that what COVID did to me. Hold on, I'm just looking at my notes from you. Oh, when she said, so she mentioned the whole, professionals have presence on LinkedIn, and I just can't recommend enough that you spend time looking at what your colleagues are posting, because so often when somebody is starting out in this profession, they're like, what do I talk about? What do people want to know? And they think that all the knowledge that they possess inside of them is for some reason common sense for job seekers too.
Second nature.
Yes.
Why would I have to let a job seeker know about this? It should, like you said, common sense.
Right, exactly. And it's not. And when you go out there and you look at somebody who has 25,000 followers who's talking about, should you have an objective on your resume in 2024? And it's got like 300 comments on it and engagement and traction right there. You're like, oh, it gives clarity to the fact that people are coming to the job search for the first time in 2024 for the first time. They may not have done this in a decade. They may have never done it the right way. Where you start makes a difference. So familiarizing yourself with modes and methods for different platforms just by watching what others are doing is super valuable. Mm-hmm. All right. Awesome. So far, I've just got one last question for you. Is there anything else you'd like our audience to know in terms of encouragement, lessons learned, or final thoughts around being successful as a career industry professional and business owner?
Two things. First of all, network like crazy. Now, I'm going to be transparent here. I'm going to share something personal. I joke around. I've been married twice, divorced twice, 7 more. You can call me Jaja Darling. Give me half a chance, I'll morph into the accent because my mom was from Hungary. So now, during my first marriage, I made a nice supplementary second income with my business, but it wasn't enough for one person to live on. However, when my first husband and I separated after nearly 13 years of marriage, to put it mildly, I was terrified. And it didn't help because my ex drained our bank accounts. He couldn't touch my business account, thank goodness. Now, when I, on my own, calculated my then earnings versus the bills to be paid, I realized to my horror that I could only save $25 a year. This prompted me to go into I think I got 8 hours of sleep in a week. I was petrified. What I did, I went into overdrive when it came to networking with my existing clients. And I remember saying to each and every one of them, I've experienced a dramatic personal change in my life. And can I count on you to spread the word and throw as much business as you can to me? And as a result, I more than doubled my revenues after only 1 year. Now, I didn't realize it at the time, but I was channeling the sentiments from Damon John's book, The Power of Broke. And for those who might not know, Damon is one of the sharks on ABC TV Shark Tank. I'm a huge Shark Tank fan. Now, taken from an Amazon excerpt in describing his book, when your back is up against the wall, when your bank account is empty and creativity and passion are the only resources you can afford, success is your only option. Damon instructs budding entrepreneurs on how to scrape, hustle, and dream their way to the top. The second piece of advice that I would give, embody an I'm going to prove you wrong mindset in response to any naysayer comments. I'm reminded of the then president of my local chamber of commerce who told me that I couldn't make a success of my business because of the at that time robust local competition. I'm the only one left standing now, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And secondly, I looked so young. I was in my early 30s at the time, but I looked like I was in my late teens, and I kept getting carded until I was about 35 or so. Now, in 2015, I bumped into her, the then chamber of president of the local chamber of commerce. I bumped into her at a local festival. She asked how my business was doing, and I responded, I am thrilled to report that I'm going to be celebrating my 30th anniversary in business in a few weeks. And believe it or not, she turned beet red and walked away. Now, my then business coach, he sadly passed away since then, he attended this festival with me. He commented on this interaction, and he thought that the former Chamber of Commerce president's remarks were way out of line. So even today, I embody you're setting me up for a challenge. Watch me go. I'm going to prove you wrong. I mean, I've embodied that mindset since my teens. I'm a little bit older than that now, but it's something I still hold on to today.
And those both go hand in hand. The first one about you're having to like dig deep and be enterprising and scrappy, and this one of proving naysayers wrong. First of all, I agree that one of the biggest challenges we face it when we start a business, and even when we succeed in a business, is all the people who either think we're just at home eating bonbons.
Yeah, right.
It took my dad years to figure out that it actually did work. It came as a very big surprise to him that this profession. It also was a. I remember when I told him what I was doing, and he was like, "Ha ha! I write my own resume. Who's going to pay for that?" But sadly, it is. People have no limit of the amount of energy they want to put into telling people how they're going to fail. And is that because they failed themselves? They didn't live the dream? Or is it because they're close to you and they love and protect you? I used to love Barbara. Well, Barbara Scher, she has since passed. Amazing, amazing woman. I consider her the mother of career coaching and counseling. And
is she the author of Wishcraft?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to see her in person, I think 3 times. But yeah, she wrote Wishcraft, and she wrote I could do anything. Oh, I could do anything if I only knew what it was. But she also wrote a book called oh my gosh, I came across it in a library years ago, and now I can't think of what it was called. Success Teams. Success Teams. The whole concept being that often when we're trying to reach goals and dreams, big things that we want to achieve for ourselves, we turn to the people closest to us for support. And that is the worst thing you could often do, because so often the people closest to you, they've seen you at your worst. They've seen you, they've seen your fears, your money worries, and they want to protect you from yourself. Or they're jerks.
I think in my case, my mom, may she rest in peace. My mom's gone a little over 8 years now, but I used to have a standing invitation for dinner at my mom's place. She lived in Toronto, and every single time, and I knew that my mom was on a senior's pension, and she lived a little bit off of investments, that sort of thing, but she couldn't really blow the wad if she wanted to. And she would always say, "Marian, do you need some extra money?" And I would say no, because I realized it was a bit of a struggle for her. But I think she was worried I was by myself, looking after a household, that sort of thing. And thank goodness I was, to this day I can still I can still make better than a living wage. And I will mention too that on 2 separate instances, I make a healthy 5 figures, but in 2 separate instances, I've made a healthy 6 figures. And the only reason it dropped down to 5 figures is that my business coach, he was my SEO guy. He looked after all of that. And sadly, he ascended to heaven about a year and a half ago now. But I'm in the process of learning SEO for myself now. So if I want to delegate that off, at least I'll have the knowledge to say to the person, could you do this, this, and this, so that I'm hoping that I'm coming from an educated place as opposed to a clueless place.
Right. Yeah. It never hurts to have some knowledge. But yeah, so take this advice. I think that my takeaway from the last part is that, anyone can be successful as an entrepreneur, but entrepreneurship really isn't for everyone. I'm not trying to discourage anyone, but I have seen it time and time again that if you're able to dig deep when the challenges come, because especially starting out, there can be hills and valleys in an entrepreneurial journey. And so if you don't have a cushion or you don't budget well, that point is going to come where the rubber meets the road and you have to decide, are you in it to win it? Or is it too much for you to handle? And a lot of times we don't even have to experience those struggles. Marian and I are longtime veterans of this industry, throwing around, numbers in 30 years terms. The world has changed a lot, and it doesn't have to be that hard. Now there are places like CDI where you can figure out how to do things the right way the first time instead of having to reinvent the wheel like we had to do at one point. Don't need to learn from books anymore and wonder if they're the right books. But this has been so valuable, Marian. I love how many opportunities we had to stop and pause and go, here's a resource and here's this advice, some really great golden nuggets today. So I know we've got some people still with us. If you'd like to take a moment to thank Marian in the chat, I would greatly appreciate that. Been a wonderful guest.
Doing, and yeah, it looks like he's decimating a toy right now, which is a good thing. So
it's keeping him busy.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do the show closing right now, but stick with me. But thank you so much. This was really...
thank you for allowing me to chat today. The pleasure was mine.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right, everyone, if you found this as valuable as I did, you are going to want to continue tuning in each Wednesday at 3:45 p.m. Eastern. I've currently got many more amazing guests lined up. Next week, I'm joined by Donna Shannon of Personal Touch Career Services. So prior to her business becoming full-time, Donna worked in HR, recruitment, and accounting in such industries as broadcasting, renewable energy. One of her more interesting jobs was within the career services department for an occupational school that trained adults in private service, who are the people who manage multi-million-dollar private estates. Today, a lot of her business is still in this niche industry, which includes estate managers, personal assistants, butlers, and private chefs. And on the fringe, she currently does stand-up comedy on the side. So her company's main services include resumes, interview prep, job search strategy, LinkedIn profile writing, career coaching, and online courses for these same topics. She says her two of her main claims to fame are that she helps people land jobs they love in less time while earning up to 20% more in salary, and she uses her comedy background to inject humor into the serious deep dive into job search strategy process. So if you want to learn more, be sure to join us next Wednesday at 3:45. And don't forget, subscribe, and then come over to the CDI website because I'm going to cover my face now, which is pretty corny. But I'm going to have to redesign this so it's on the other side. But this is the page I want you to come and visit, careerdirectors.com/free stuff. You can also get there by just going to careerdirectors.com and clicking on the free stuff tab. When you are there, you are going to find the opportunity to join our private community, get support, network, referral opportunities. Every day we have a daily prompt for participation to get to know each other, accountability support, lessons. I'm going to put this down because I think you've got the URL. Again, careerdirectors.com, free stuff. really valuable, wonderful lessons on this page. However, making your life super easy, take the quiz. There is a 1-minute quiz on the page to determine your #1 blocker to career business success. It's not only going to tell you what your blocker is, but it's going to curate all those free resources for you and tell you where to focus your time and energy. And a lot of our members tell us that this is the reason they decided to join, because when the resources are so good on the outside in the freebie section that they make you want to, that they help you to build a 6-figure practice before you even become a member, just imagine what it's like on the inside. So again, our membership is currently closed for registration, but you can navigate over to the join page, get on the wait list. I would absolutely recommend that because we're about to open up. We're not even doing a big splashy announcement publicly. It's only going to be to our wait list, and it's only going to probably be for 48 hours. Just a little opportunity. Hey, if you're struggling or wish you had these resources, support, and tools, here's 2 days to come on board between now and when we have our next formal opening, which is not scheduled, because really, we just are putting our energy into our wonderful members like Marian. So,
Oh, thank you.
so I hope I will see you over there. Get over there, join the wait list, take the quiz, get on the list so you can start getting the recordings and updates on these wonderful guests. And thank you again, Marian, so much.
Thank you. And you probably saw Oreo wanted to say hello as well. So.
The Oreo has jumped in the picture. Yep. All right, everyone. I hope I will see you here next week with my next guest. And until then, let's all keep flying higher.